Hey there, my name's Gjerda, thanks for tuning in. I've been having a ton of fun with Beyond Light, and I wanted to talk about it more. So this is a mostly scripted commentary with some high-level comp footage. Now when I say high-level, I mean within the point range of the high 4000s to 5000s, but as you can see in this messy behemoth fight, that doesn't mean it's quote-unquote high-level gameplay. This was just a very silly kerfuffle. Although we do have some nice clips coming up, so hang around for those. Anyway, I've really been enjoying Beyond Light, and I truly think this expansion is right up there with Forsaken and Taken King from Destiny 1, which is when I started playing Destiny, and I've put in a lot of hours since. This is one of the best places the game has ever been in PvP-wise, in my opinion, and I'm really looking forward to the future. The sandbox feels focused, intentional, and fresh. I'm definitely focusing all these thoughts more on the PvP side of things, because that's where I spend most of my time, and that's just how I have fun, really, for the most part. But I think PvE is in a pretty good spot right now, too. I've really enjoyed the time I spent in raids and nightfalls. I've done 18 Deepstone Crypt runs, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've felt like they're pretty rewarding, although I still have yet to get a single succession sniper rifle, and I would really like that. Anyway, on the PvP side, the weapon balancing is some of the best it's ever been. I really have never been more conflicted, to be honest, about like what is powerful right now in the PvP weapon meta. You could seriously use almost any weapon archetype and perform really well right now if you just play thoughtfully and you aren't encountering god tier players on the other team. And even if you are, like, you can still learn to play around that. And I've seen this firsthand. Like, to be honest, I play probably 20 or 30 hours of Destiny every week, if not more, which is a lot, and maybe I should cut back a bit, but I've just been having a lot of fun, to be honest. But anyway, I've seen a ton of different weapons used in comp, in trials, and in 6v6 too. It's just really, really cool to see such weapon diversity, and to be able to put on like weird loadouts and still be able to do well if I adjust my play. That just feels really rewarding. Like a bow with divinity or something really weird like that, or like a hipfire sniper rifle where you like only hipfire just for fun with like fighting lion. Like, just funky stuff can still be just a blast. So more about the PvP weapon balancing. Let's just start with like 120 round per minute hand cannons, for instance. They're incredible, they're so fun, they're really good, and after experiencing years of hand cannons having kind of mediocre range, it feels unbelievably good to just like sit back and just, you know, 2 crit 1 body somebody from miles away. I think that's absolutely perfect for the hand cannon power fantasy, and reducing their rounds per minute just a touch really gives the quote-unquote breathing room that other guns kind of needed, which didn't exist as much before. For instance, like pulse rifles and auto rifles, they're still really good, and you can absolutely hang with hand cannons on most maps. Or like sidearms and slug shotguns can really hang at close range, they can do great. And also, like, snipers are feeling more balanced too. I think the like slight aim assist reduction was a nice touch. I think snipers should still be a little bit harder to use because they still feel like a little bit too good, but they're kind of fine right now, and I find myself being able to counter snipers much more effectively by just adding some flinch. Snipers are still incredibly potent, and they should be. They can really define matches, which is good, but sometimes, you know, I think right now it's maybe a little bit too much. But all in all, snipers are feeling way more in line with what feels fair in PvP, and I think they're only headed in a better direction over time. Honestly, it's stunning how much breathing room has been opened up for other guns by 99% of 150 round per minute hand cannons going away. It is such a great indirect buff to the other guns, and it's made the sandbox feel really good. Obviously, hand cannons are still the best, which they should be in my opinion, but like, if you get accurate with an auto rifle or a pulse rifle, you're going to be a force to reckon with. For real, all you have to do is cause a hand cannon user to miss a single shot, and now your time to kill is better. And if you miss a shot or two, you're still good for the most part. Now, I say hand cannons are still the best because, of course, peak shooting. And when you're peak shooting with a team, they're just punishing. This is a fundamental rule of weapons in any first-person shooter sandbox, and it always has been and it always will be. It's just, you know, how it works. Hand cannons or any single-shot weapon does all of their damage in one shot when they peek out, and then when they're back in cover, they can't take any damage. So if they have even a comparable time to kill with weapons that require tracing your target, like auto rifles for instance, they'll be more effective, so long as they're in the hands of a skilled player, that is. But to be more realistic, I think this brings up a very relevant and sometimes frustrating point of the Destiny sandbox right now. Gunfights with only primary weapons are happening very rarely. Just to start out, usually people enter fights already having taken a little bit of damage, or they immediately take more damage from another source, like some weird ability that was lingering on the field, or another teammate that puts in a single shot from across the map, or something random like that. There are just so many variables entering every fight in PvP that it feels like primary weapon TTK, time to kill, matters less, because everyone always has some sort of ability or a teammate nearby or a way to exit or enter a fight really quickly if they take too much damage. Just take a 6v6 game mode, the likelihood that you're going to enjoy like a nice 0.87 TTK or something like that is actually pretty low in those game modes. Now these are 6v6 modes, so of course the hecticness is what makes them fun, and getting high kill counts and stuff like that, just a lot of wacky stuff happening. But even if you think about something like elimination or trials or survival, in these modes you have less people on each team, and those people are a little bit more hardcore because they're focused up and they're trying to win, and they're coordinated. They're not going to give you time to have a one-on-one primary gunfight for you to get a quick TTK, and why would they, right? It's much smarter to take a 2v1, so even if you die, your teammate can kill your single opponent in that moment, and your team can come out on top mathematically. Or in most cases, you or your opponent will have an ability that allows you to disengage from the fight if you start to lose, or an ability that suddenly puts your opponent at a disadvantage by you gaining health back quickly, or maybe you can eke some extra damage out with a ranged melee or something, or you could debuff your opponent in some way. Just a quick side note, this is a comp match where my team and I encounter another really good team in the playlist that we had encountered earlier in the day, and we had lost to. And I think we played them in trials last weekend too, and we had lost to them there as well. So it was pretty fun to have this rematch. And as you can see, my behavior and gameplay is not great. I'm just kind of flailing and nervous because I want to win, and I know these guys are really good. But as you can see, as it goes on, we come together as a team more. I get my shit together, and we are able to make some good shit happen. And maybe we even win. I don't know. Keep watching. Okay. Anyway, back to the original conversation. No matter what, at high level play or low level play, there are just more ways than ever for your opponent to use something other than primary weapons to tilt the balance of the fight in their favor. And while that can be really frustrating for first-person shooter purists, admittedly kind of like myself, because sometimes I just really want to focus on how the guns feel, that's just the way it is these days. And to be honest, you can use these same methods to put your opponents at disadvantages before the fights begin, just as much as they can use these things against you. Destiny has always and will always be about crafting a deck that can beat your opponent before the fight even begins. From the beginning, that is where Destiny started, using big space magic and all these nutty abilities to do some really cool shit. That is a very defining thing about Destiny, and something that's really fun in my opinion. And it's no different today, especially with Stasis having such a big impact on the game. Stasis is immensely powerful, and while I don't believe it is as overpowered as people make it out to be, or as it looks on the surface, I do think it's very good. And I think it takes less effort to be good with Stasis than it does to be good with light subclasses. And I think Stasis abilities and supers are something that most people are just not yet used to dealing with. But Stasis abilities and supers are still absolutely counterable. It really is just going to take more practice to counter Stasis, and I also think there's definitely some room for fine-tuning from Bungie. For example, the Hunter Shadow Dive ability does a lot of damage and has a very wide radius. Of course, this is just the nature of any multiplayer PvP game though. New things come along, and sometimes these new things are weak, sometimes they're powerful, and then they slowly fall back in line with tweaks, and people learn to counter them. To try to wrap up the Stasis discussion here, I think I would summarize by saying this: Stasis is very powerful right now, and that's just fine. It should be powerful to start out to make a grand entrance. It's our first dark-based subclass, and it should really feel like we are embracing the darkness. I think it feels like a terrifying enemy to the light, and I like that. That said, I think over time it needs to be reined in a little bit. But these quick fixes that just need to be made to rein it in are things that Bungie has already done and can continue to do. Like we already saw that with the Warlock Super and the Warlock melee ability, and that's already a benefit we can see from sunsetting today. Because the game is smaller, Bungie is able to enact faster changes, and I would trade that any day for simply not being able to visit Mars, Io, Titan, and Mercury. I think it's about time to wrap this up, so I just want to summarize this with some final points. I think Beyond Light is good because it's brought more players to Destiny, or it's brought people back, and that's always awesome for the game to keep it fresh. I think Stasis has totally mixed up the PvP meta and changed the way we all play. Plus, Beyond Light added a really fresh PvP sandbox where the best guns are still good, but different archetypes have room to shine. Some things clearly need to be reined in, but they will be, and even already I think people are getting better and better at learning how to play around the shiny new things in this new sandbox we have. So all in all, thanks for listening, and as always, I am interested to hear what other people think too, so feel free to let me know. I hope you've been having fun with Beyond Light, and if you're looking for new things to try in PvP, I highly recommend Duality, Graviton Lance, Fighting Lion, Middle Tree Arc Warlock, Bottom Tree Solar Titan, and Bottom Tree Void Hunter. Anyway, wishing you the best and have fun. Okay, bye now.
I couldn't.
It's okay.
They're both weak in Red Spawn, both weak.
We're too far.
That's fine, that's fine.
Yo,
We go just super. They come up just super.
Yep.
There's one down low and then one up top.
Nice.
Perfect.
Just hide. Just hide. Just hide. We're still hiding. We're 10 seconds.
Yep.
Easy cash.
Can you get back to us here? Or actually, you're
Not
probably
really.
better up there.
Yeah, I'm just keeping him away.
Good shit.
Nice.
Tough team.
Perfect. Yeah, that was.
It really did.
I'm okay with that though. That's what I want comp to be.
Yeah, no, I do
Whatever
too.
the fuck it is.